Peace and blessings. I'm Minister Mustafa Abdullah of the Third Church of Jerusalem, House of Prayer, Temple of God, and also the God, Truth, and Love political party. And I just returned from Target, and something occurred that just got me to thinking. To set it up, some months ago I got in a conversation with another black man concerning the differences between the disciplinary tactics of blacks versus whites. In general, blacks discipline, you try to say, their kids in a different manner, usually more strict than whites. I won't go all into the conversation, but that's just a general overview. So today, like I said, I was just at Target. As I was leaving the store, I was in the parking lot, and I could hear this screaming kid behind me, a good 60, 70 yards. I turn to look, and then you can hear the mother telling the kid, "No, I told you can't have any popcorn because you were bad in the store." Kid's steady, I want some popcorn, whining and hollering and whatnot. She said, "No, I'm ignoring you. I'm ignoring you." Which, right there, once you repeatedly say, "I'm ignoring you," then you're not ignoring them. But she eventually said, and I can hear this, "Now I asked you to behave when we was going in the store." And that's the part I want to focus on. She said, "I asked you." Because as soon as she said that, my thing was, well, you don't ask. You tell them what to do. If it was my children, I tell you what to do. And you're going to do it. And if you don't, there are going to be consequences and repercussions. Well, it triggered something. And it got me to thinking, why is it like that for blacks? Why are we quick to beat our kids? Well, then slavery came to mind. And I started thinking, okay, let's go back 500 years. Our ancestors brought up here as slaves. And, of course, everything that happens within their daily life is they're being told what to do. And if they don't do it, then they're beat severely, whipped, and maybe even killed. So then those slaves start picking up on this means of authoritarian. I hope I got that correct. Disciplining. Hundreds of years go by, and of course, slaves are learning. You tell somebody what to do. If you want your underlings, you want your subordinates to do something, you tell them what to do, and if they don't do it, you beat them. Okay, so like I said, this has to be picked up on. This is going on. So the slaves, and then eventually the free slaves, it's inbred in them. It's been beaten in them. You tell somebody what to do, and if they don't do it, you beat them. And then along the same lines, on the other side, for whites, the kids of the slave owners, they were always tended to by the slaves. The parents wouldn't tell them to do many things. Most likely, I'm assuming, they would ask them to do things. And if they didn't do it, well, then you could always get a slave to do it. And so that's being inbred over hundreds of years. I can kick back. If I don't want to do anything, I don't have to. And the correct way of dealing with my kids is just to ask them to do it and continue to ask with no really serious repercussions, like it is for blacks. This is just a theory, and I'm just thinking. I want to come in and sit down and put this to video, while it's straight off my head, and I'm still thinking through. And then another aspect of it is getting non-blacks, I guess specifically whites here in America, to understand what is going on when blacks are standing up and asking for reparations, asking for things to be made right that were done wrong years and years ago. Maybe I'm trying to think exactly when slavery ended, but even after slavery, you still have segregation and whatnot. Understanding that things that happen move forward and have an effect over time. I think the real issue is that we get caught up, both sides get caught up on the money aspect of reparations. We're asking for justice in those wrongs that were done against our people for hundreds of years here in this country. We built this country. You can say we helped build this country, but we built this country on our broken backs. Our people did. And those things that happened in the past have come forward to today. For instance, the disciplining thing. Boy, I'm hard trouble with that word. And and then you have to ask, what else has been inbred in us that is affecting our mentality today, our being today. Generally blacks want to be looked at as being, dumb or stupid, lazy, etc., etc. But let's look at that. If you're being beaten into working, into doing, and being told what to do, things you don't want to do, what is the best means of revolting against that? You don't do it. You be lazy. Take your time, lay back, kick back. If your people are prevented from reading and writing, it's against the law to read and write, can't go to school, then what's going to happen? You're going to be ignorant. You're not going to know many things. And these things are going to be passed down from generation to generation. A parent can't teach a child if the parent doesn't know. A parent can't teach a child geometry if the parent has never done geometry. And these things are going through. We are not that far from slavery, and especially segregation. And even in segregation, the schools, we're allowed to go to schools, but they're not equal. We don't get the same text, the same quality of teachers with a knowledge and a background to teach. And so you have to understand this is affecting us here and now. Now for me, for the reparations, like I was saying, we need to move away from the money aspect, in a sense. I think we should get reparations, but not money in our pocket. If you give me $3,000 or $30,000. You know, what am I really gonna do with that? Pay some bills, do some things around the house, do something to the car, whatnot. But you know, in the long term, that really does nothing for me or my people. I feel that the government should pay for and allow for DNA testing for every black that wants it done here in America. And then to set up, to establish over in Africa some centers all throughout where those people in Africa can come and get that same DNA test, and we can start matching and start trying to find out where we came from, find out where our people are there in Africa. You know, to really repair that damage that has been done. The true damage is the taking away of the knowledge of who we are, a knowledge of self, our people, our culture, our history. That's what was truly taken from us. We really don't know who we are. You know, all I can really say is I'm from Dayton, Ohio, and then my grandma's from Alabama. But after that, that's not really who I am or where I descended from. It goes back further than that. And that disconnect, that gap between America and Africa, is a gap between knowing who I truly am, who I am today and who my people were before. And that's the repair I want. And also, I think America should pay for recovering artifacts, bodies, bones, anything that may be at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean along the slavery passageways. You know, that's a Herculean task, but I believe that's what should be done. That's what should be owed. That's what should be paid. And we always start over there on the edge of Africa, you know, and work our way through. I'm sure there's plenty of things at the bottom of the ocean. You know, things that show our culture, you know, our history, religion, that's there at the bottom of the ocean with all those many bodies, those millions of bodies that were thrown overboard. So just my thoughts, you know, just put them out there. God bless. Peace and love.